Hello. So, I, for those of you who are watching, I thought it would be a nice idea to teach meditation classes twice a week for the foreseeable future, just to help people have some kind of tools to be able to use during times of anxiety and worry and just everyday life because honestly, even though now might seem like a higher anxiety time for many people, life is always a wonderful opportunity to be anxious or depressed. So it is also a wonderful opportunity to be at peace and handle things skillfully and be wise. And nobody's perfect. This practice is not about being perfect, but I've been practicing meditation since I was 18 and probably making it up before then, and have a whole bunch of tools, a whole bunch of things I've learned that I would like to share with people because it is good for me to practice, and I think it's good for everybody to learn new skills. Um, so, on a base level, what we are going to be looking at today is a type of meditation that's probably one of the oldest meditation practices, but who knows? It is definitely from before recorded history. Um, the Sanskrit word for it is Samadhi, and it's about focusing your attention on one point. And a lot of the experience of meditating doesn't make a lot of sense when talked about. It has to be practiced for it to be understood. So when I say things that sound like philosophies that don't jive with yours or don't make sense, I encourage you to just practice, just try, just explore, come to it with an open and curious mind, and just see what kind of sensations and experiences you have when trying to do it. So, again, on a base level, one of the ways that I encourage you to look at this and many of the practices is with a very loose grip. Choose to do something with your time for a set period of time, and it can be 5 minutes, it can be 20 minutes twice a day, which is how I was initially taught, or it could be 3 hours a day, in 2 or 3 sessions, whatever your desire is. Because again, like anything we can get interested or obsessed with in our life, sometimes we just want to do it a lot. And I kind of encourage that take on it more than a sense of self-help or this is good for me, so I have to do it. I want you to think more along the lines of like this is just exercising your will. Maybe it's just like what can I do if I set my mind to it. So if you've ever tried to meditate before and you think like, oh, I can't meditate because my mind is way too crazy, um, that's okay. You don't have to control your mind. Meditation is not mind control. Meditation is just seeing what happens when you try to do these kind of internal practices. Samadhi is about holding your attention on one point. I don't know if you've looked in the meditation group I created. I posted a list of all the techniques that I intend to be teaching, and there's lots and lots and lots of them. And all of them have different benefits, and all of them fit psyches differently. So before we get into the teaching of how to meditate with the Samadhi technique or what it means, all those things, what I would like you to do for a base level is just set in your consciousness right now that you would like to be in the present and experience the present as fully as you can for a short period of time. And just see what that is like. Because all of us can do that, right? And a lot of our lives, we assume that's what we're doing, but in actuality, we're looking at a phone, looking for something else, or we're thinking about the future plans we have to make, worries we have to worry about, or we're thinking about the past, things we miss or desire or wished for, or mistakes, whatever. We're very often not in the present. And anyone who has had those kind of experiences where they feel fully in the present, it's rare. It feels weird and rare a lot of the time. So we're just going to say to ourselves, going to experience the present moment and just see what it it feels like without doing anything. So you can have your eyes open or closed. You can have music on. There can be noises outside. It doesn't matter. Just whatever's happening, try to be present with it and see what it feels like. See if it's difficult for you, and maybe just notice what you're doing. What does it mean to you to experience the present? So I'm going to just be quiet for a few minutes, like 5 minutes, and we're just going to do whatever we naturally do when we think I want to be in the present moment. And then I'll talk quietly again to move us on to the next teaching. Okay, so go ahead and just return to whatever your normal mind is, also in the present, listening to my voice. Now, The technique of samadhi, the simplest version of it is feeling your breath coming or moving in your body, feeling the breath, not even your breath. You can't really claim it as yours. It's just moving in and out of your body. So the most classic point of attention for the movement of breath is the nostrils, to actually feel the air moving in and out of your nostrils. For people who don't have facial hair, the top of the lip is often used as well. And anywhere else in your body where you're noticing the movement of the breath in your body is a adequate, valid place to feel the breath. So some people will feel it in their belly or their lungs. Wonderful. So just take a moment to feel what that feels like, as far as feeling the breath in your nostrils or your lip or your belly or your lungs. And when we choose to practice samadhi, we're going to choose one of these spots and just stick with it. So on the simplest level, without really more elaboration, I want you to do the same thing we just did, which is just choosing to be in the present moment and to try to do it like this now. Like, instead of whatever experience you just had, now you're going to try to just focus on the breath and see what that's like. And I encourage you to be kind, gentle, and not too serious about it, meaning that, like, yes, you want to be focused, but be kind and friendly. Okay, so just settle again, close your eyes. It's easier to stay focused with your eyes closed. And you can sit in any position. A chair is fine. Just, it makes it a little easier to stay attentive if your spine is straight. So if you want to sit with your back supported, that's fine, but having your head resting on something is easier to fall asleep or blank out. Laying down, easier to fall asleep or blank out. So spine straight is the recommendation. Pay attention to the breath wherever it is in your body, and then close your eyes. And again, I will speak again in about 5 minutes and just explore what it's like to try to hold on to just the sensation of breathing. Okay, now I encourage you to open your eyes, just take a breath and return to listening. So some of the useful skills to apply to Samadhi meditation. I encourage you to be patient and kind with yourself, meaning that it is very difficult to stay one-pointed. It is something that if you worked at all day for many years, it would take you a while to master it. It's a skill. And it does seem to a lot of people to be a pointless kind of skill, but being able to choose what your mind does is a really useful skill to have. Again, it's not mind control. You can't control your mind, but choosing how to return to a point of attention is a wonderful skill to have. Again, if we're in a world where there's a lot to be afraid of and a lot to be angry about, if you're constantly being seduced into being angry and scared, then you can't really make many good choices because your emotional landscape is hell, and you don't have the ability to just choose. If you hone this kind of skill, and again, I'm going to be teaching lots of different meditation techniques, the ability to choose where your attention's going and put it there, it gives you a type of superpower. To be able to choose where your awareness goes. So when you're trying to choose to be one-pointed, like this technique, and this technique is difficult also because it's passive. You're not doing anything. Staying in the present moment and paying attention to something that we can take for granted, like our breath, is very difficult because most of your life you take it for granted and ignore it. One of the great things about your breath is you can control it. If you've done pranayama or any kind of breath work, you know that you can make your breath deeper or longer. If you're working out, you can make your breath deeper, shorter, longer, faster. But if you stop paying attention to your breath, it just keeps breathing. There's something really magical about that and something really interesting. One of the things that I like to be aware of is that whenever you're inhaling and exhaling, you're exchanging air with the environment, which essentially means that you're drawing the outside world into your body and sharing the inside of your body with the outside world constantly. You're breathing in air that's come out of trees, from all the other people, from all the other plants, and it allows you to understand how intimately connected you are with reality. That's a thought, though, and thinking is not really what this meditation's about. It's not really examining it. Well, it can be, but it's more about experiencing the experience of breathing. We're experiencing the sensation of breathing at one point. So when you're trying to experience one-pointedness and you notice you're thinking or hearing, or suddenly you just have found yourself in a whole thought train that you didn't even notice, you're like, I'm watching my breath, and then 5 minutes later you've been thinking about something for a while. And you're like, oh, how long have I been thinking about that? It's useful to be kind and patient with yourself, understanding that this is a skill that you're learning and that you're practicing and that you're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to be better. And gently return to it. So every time you notice that you're no longer paying attention to the sensation of breath, just gently return to it. If you feel you need to put more effort into it, you can use an internal words, if that's one of the ways your mind works, and you can say, come back. So if you're in the future, one of the things that somebody taught me years ago that I love is energetically, if you find yourself in the future or the past or whatever, just thinking about something, imagine you're pulling yourself back. So if you have a visual mind, you can picture energy or light coming from these different directions back to your center. And your center could be anywhere in your body that you want it to be, but for this meditation, it's at the sensation of the breathing. So every time you notice the attention wander, you pull it back. Again, this is a very useful skill to have at other points in your life. There are sensations that can happen when you actually just fall in. So again, part of meditation is learning, part of any skill is learning. And when you're learning, there's a lot of thought presses, there's a lot of fumbling, there's a lot of failing. Failing's fine. You know, a lot of times when I meditate, I will, anchoring. Okay, actually, one of the comments that somebody just said was anchoring. In a lot of meditation techniques, that you're not just trying to be one-pointed, they will call this an anchor. It is entirely what they call it because it helps you just, something to return to, right? When you successfully have all of your attention on this one point, that's something that they call a jhana. There are these layers of experience that happen in samadhi that they call jhanas, and there's multiple layers of the jhanas, but we'll just start with the first one. Has 5 experiences, and really as you go through the first 5, you're just lopping off those experiences to the last one. But first you'll notice that you're actually able to choose the object and stay on it. That is in itself an interesting experience, and it's really good to be aware of and be like, I'm achieving, I am succeeding. Like, so that's why I'm giving you these concepts, so you can notice that you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting past just trying and stumbling and failing. When you can actually hold the attention on one spot. The second is when you notice that you can curiously observe it and examine it. So not just hold it, but actually kind of go into it. After that, you have this experience of kind of bliss, like it can just wash through, and it's unconditional, meaning, well, it's not unconditional because it's conditional on this achievement, but it's not related to anything else. It's just you've been able to achieve this. And so I don't know if it's like a dopamine response, but your whole consciousness just gets washed with this sense of bliss. So may that be a carrot to you, because it is really nice, but it's also an exciting sensation. And as many of you have experienced, being excited all the time is not actually super pleasant. So one of the other things that happens is peace. These are different, right? You get the bliss and you get the peace. And so sometimes you can just like roll back into this amazing quiet peace, because again, this is not like about shutting out the world. So again, it's not about repelling the other senses. This is just about choosing to fold all of consciousness. So a lot of times when I notice distractions, I will fold it back in. It's like I'm pulling it back into that sensation, and all of the attention and all the energy comes into that sensation. And so the peace can just be this like a wonderful sense of relaxation. Again, it's kind of a different feeling than just normal relaxation. And then the last one is this kind of oneness, right? That if your consciousness, whatever that is, you and consciousness, these aren't really separate, and the sensation of the breath is also not really separate. So the object, if the object and you and your consciousness all fold into one-pointedness, you, as it like collapses in, it expands out and it becomes spaceless but also enormous. Like you get this sensation of just it's not exactly Satchitananda, but it is again an experience you have to have, better than I can describe it. But it is that everything folds into one experience and then expands outward. So look for these kind of sensations and take some time to appreciate it, because a lot of the times when attempting to do something that we are not good at, we will be frustrated and beat ourselves up over it. And it's really good to notice when you're doing that, because you don't need to. So if there's ever a time that you notice it, you're like, oh, I don't need to beat myself up. It's okay. I'm just learning. And you can be just learning for 20 years. That's fine. But it's also good to notice when you have the positive aspects, and then you can be like, oh, this feels great and I'm achieving something, and you can kind of pat yourself on the back and be appreciative of it. I think that is that is all the teaching I need or want to do on this topic right now. Unless any of you watching right now have any questions, I'll wait a minute, see if you have any questions. I will say also, if you've examined this type of meditation in the past, Samadhi meditation is the same kind of thing of any one-pointed meditation, meaning that if you've heard of people like staring at a candle flame, that's an external visual anchor. And you can do it with lots of other things, but this is, again, I just wanted to focus on the breath because it's very useful. You always have it. You can use it in any moment. Okay, so no questions. So great. I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes, and you're welcome to attempt to be in the present and just watch your breath and explore what that feels like, and give up and come back to it, or just tune out whenever you're ready. But when my timer's gone off, I will talk a little bit, and then I will again post the link to the Facebook group if anybody wants to talk or have questions. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your attention, and may you find peace, bliss, and wisdom. right, so I encourage you to take a few deep breaths. Let your eyes open. Look around. Bring yourself back to this moment. And appreciate that you just took some time to practice learning a skill. Reflections I would like to share on that is, I was just in a meditation retreat for a month, the month of October, and I was shocked to find that a lot of the time I was responding to the meditation experience with frustration and anger because I was failing. So again, everything I'm saying with all this wisdom, it is so much easier to do for 20 minutes than all day, every day for a month. And this sit, I had such a playfulness and kindness with the experience that it was a joy. I wanted to share that sometimes I described the jhanas, right, that you can have these rolling feelings of bliss and peace and so on and so forth. And they can be otherworldly, but they can also just be momentary and simple. And that is also something to be appreciated and noticed, to be like, oh, yes, I just had a moment of happiness. I just had a moment of peace. I just had a moment of bliss. That this is a good thing to let yourself have, let yourself experience, and to appreciate. I also think it's funny that most of the time when I'm meditating, I'm thinking about teaching when the thoughts are happening. I want to teach someone something. My nieces or nephews, or teach a class or something. That's obviously why I'm doing this now, because I was in a meditation retreat and I was like, I should teach meditation techniques online because that'll help people in this time of transition. So I was kind to myself as opposed to fighting with it. And I also noticed that sometimes when I've done Samadhi practice and I really get into it, the experience of the breath can be timeless. That is actually one of the jhana experiences. But whoever knows how long, how many breaths you've been watching, unless you're purposely counting. But it's amazing to, when you actually feel it, to feel how long and how short, and how deep, and how shallow, and how forceful, how relaxed the breath is. But sometimes the bliss, the knowing, the presence only lasts for a moment of a breath. I noticed that many times, this sit, that just at one point I would really, really fully experience the inhale, a moment of the inhale. And it felt really good. It made me suffused with joy. And I laughed at one point that I was like, it's just a fraction of a breath and I was there. So it sounds so strange to talk to people who haven't tried to do this, that why is it a big deal to be present? Of course, we're all present all the time, but we're not. And when you try, you really see how hard it is. So I encourage you to appreciate even the crumbs, as one of my friends said. Appreciate the crumbs, appreciate even the smallest bit of achievement. If that's what it is. The smallest bit of presence, just really let yourself enjoy that, and be kind. And there's so many different techniques and teachings. Again, I wanted this to be a simple introduction. It's very simple and it's very difficult, but there's so many other tools that can be used and learned and applied. So I look forward to sharing some for anybody who ends up watching these either live or on recording. Thank you for your presence, and thank you for your attention, and thank you for your efforts. And may you get a little better with each breath, or just appreciate how you are with each breath. May you have peace and happiness and wisdom.